Come back.
Louis was asking about the switching systems before, so I thought I'd bring my guitar out because I've totally cranked it. Can you see that one, Rich? You remember that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yep. You got all the bells and whistles,
yeah,
except you're missing neck bridge on.
yeah. Neck bridge on. That's the one I didn't put. Next time, I'll have to get another one. Insane. So, um, the series parallels split um, on these guitars. How did that come about? Was that just something that Jim and Seymour Duncan came up with in the day that sort of caught on throughout the industry, or is there a history with
There's
that?
a well, like in the '70s. So what's interesting, why I was marveling at Louis buying a guitar in '53, is
Yep.
there's a really great book if you guys haven't read it called "The Birth of Loud," and it talks about the Telly and then the Les Paul Jr. And then P90s and then the Les Paul. And you think about it, there was definitely electric guitars being used, but they weren't fronting bands yet. It kind of was like the Beatles and Beach Boys were fronting the band with the, and then you had Hendrix really in short order, like 8 years. Hendrix
Yeah.
and you know Cream and Black Sabbath and Zeppelin and Rolling Stones, and then Jim started messing around with guitars in '72.
Yeah.
So like right there, and there's a bunch of guys like Jim and Wayne Charvel and I mean, early, Fender guys were messing around a bit, but it was more like the bunch of tinkerers like Aspen Pittman and different guys, and they were definitely wiring guitars up with the pickups in parallel or series, like a Strat.
Yeah.
The in between sounds is parallel.
Yeah.
So, but what Jim did is he could make a guitar stay in tune. He would drill out the block on a Strat all the way to the plate, so
Yeah.
there was no string. He would get rid of the middle four screws and put just the outside two screws and open up the holes so the tremolo wouldn't bind. He would get rid of string trees and put spacers under the tuners, just build tuners, spacers,
Yeah.
and lube the nut really well. And then he would re-fret stuff and round, just really do a great fret dress so the intonation was as good as it can be on a
Yeah.
tempered instrument. And because of that, he got sort of known by all the session guys just for being able to stay in tune and play in tune. And then Steely Dan and all that kind of stuff that Louis lived through, like the clean stuff and all those bands where things started cleaning up, and all of a sudden there's all this 60 cycle hum.
Yeah.
And one day, Jim was out. I could send you these photos, but he was out at Seymour Duncan's, and Seymour Duncan was just another repair guy that Jim was friends with. He came out here from Chicago, and he actually learned how to wire pickups at Schecter with Dave
Wow.
Schecter, and he was just part of that whole crew.
Yeah.
Dave Schechter and Tom Anderson and Pat Wilkins and Jim. It's just like Landau and Lukather in the '70s growing up together in school. Those guys grew up together and kind of became the tinkerers. But his shop was just this little bitty shop,
Oh
you
wow.
know.
Mm-hmm.
And that's Jeff Beck's Telecasters,
Hmm.
and it almost will focus there.
Yeah.
But on he had one string pickup winder, but it was this little small shop in Santa Barbara, and Jim was out there, and he was waiting for Seymour to go eat lunch, and he's looking at pickup parts, waiting for him to go to the bathroom. Funny enough, and Seymour comes out, and Jim says, "Hey, what if we put all tall magnets in, and we push the top down about halfway, and we put another top on, and we wind one coil one way and one the other? Would that be a hum canceling single coil?" And he wasn't trying to create series parallel. They were trying to get rid of hum.
Yeah.
So you didn't have these hum, because the humbucker sounded great in the studio, but it didn't sound like a single coil.
Yep.
Now, that led to being able to wire it up series parallel, and Jim would put in a couple of, stacks and a bridge pickup, no five-way, and it would just be series off parallel only. So you could get all combinations. Because Jim was always, hanging out with and talking to the session guys, and they were always pushing the envelope, trying to create different sounds. Louis knows this from producing records. You you do all your core stuff, but you're always looking for that thing that's a little bit different or does some little weird thing, and so that all went into a guitar with. Oh, and then the other element was Demeter and his preamp he had a noise canceling circuit. So Jim didn't like the noise canceling part, but he liked what the preamp did with the buffered signal on the guitar, which basically just takes the cable bandpass out. That's all that's doing is making it a low impedance signal. That all went into a guitar that went on Billie Jean with David Williams in 1983. So like 10 years after Jim started dinking around what he helped create, and it wasn't just Jim. I mean, Jim is definitely with, I mean, you look back and you think about Steve Watson and Dean Parks and Landau and Huff and Lukather and Tim Pierce and gosh, I mean, on and on. It's like he was pretty dominant as far as because it would be like, like any piece of gear. Oh, everybody's got to get a tube screamer. It did that thing, and now everybody's got to get one just so you have it in your arsenal. Same thing with the Tyler.
Yeah.
So that's what it was. Is he was going. It was more they were trying to be quiet, and then that opened up doors to do this thing. And it's any combination of series and parallel. I was with a young guy. I bet you'll even be able to hear that over this even over this video chat. I was over at this kid's place, and we were sitting next to his studio gear, and we were plugged into his amp, and it was sounding Billie Jean. But I said, "Hey, we're sitting right next to your preamps. Let's plug in." Oh, here it is. And I said, "Hear that at all?
Yeah, yeah.
Is that coming through at all?"
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. You
Yeah.
could hear it. It's that Billie Jean thing,
Yeah.
man.
It's that, it's pinched and it's comb filtering is what it is. It's when you do series parallel, it's just causing waveforms to, comb filter a certain way. So
Uh-huh.
so that kind of was the deal. So yeah,
Yeah, wow. Yeah, that's an interesting bit of history. It's fantastic.
yeah.
I've
Yeah.
got a question for Rich, if I can. What's been the biggest advancements you've seen in James Tyler while you've been there?
Gosh, I think since I've been back, I've noticed it isn't just older folks and doctors, dentists, and lawyers who loved, the session guys in the '80s that are buying Tylers. I've had a lot of young guys. I've told this story many times, but I got this random text from a young guy who was 22. His name's Omar Fetty. And
Yeah.
he said, "Hey, I think it's about time I get one of those Dan Huff guitars." And I'm thinking, "Who's this guy?" And I look him up, and he's got like 1 million views on some video on Norman's Rare Guitars playing acoustic, and he can play. So I was like, "Okay, so he can play." And oh, he's a producer. So I go look him up, and he's one of these guys that works with Bieber and like these new young
Oh
artists, and
yeah.
he's got like
Uh-huh.
the billion views guy and all that,
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
so I'm thinking he's going to come in, he's going to give me the hard sale and, tell me how he's an influencer. And he couldn't have been more kind. And he was young, but his dad was a session musician. And he came here from Israel when he was 8 and he just grew up playing music. And, while we were talking, he goes, "I enjoy the stuff I work on, but it's not what I listen to. My favorite band is Giant, and I go to the Baked Potato and hang out. But he's 22. And it's like,
Uh-huh.
and these young guys are trying to figure out how to fit guitar into those kind of keyboard driven dense tracks, so they're going back and listening to all these 80s, and then they start googling, and then they find us. And I've had that with a bunch of different younger guys grabbing our guitars. So that's kind of been a big thing. And Jim kind of got into a groove of just the Studio Elite HD. So it was just a humbucker single with the preamp, which is a big part of the sound.
Yeah.
And he kind of got away from all the switches and the buttons and everything because it's definitely another land to have somebody wiring up 16 of those a week as opposed to just a volume tone and a boost,
Yeah.
So, but it's been really, really cool. And I just started saying yes to stuff that, Jim, I realize now Jim had the business at the size that he could handle to pay his bills and have 5 people work for him. So I kept expanding it. So we went from 5 guitars a week, and now I do 16, and we're getting ready to up production again. But we could do stuff like here, I'll point like that. I'm pointing at Risa's headstock. or Louie's headstock,
Yeah.
doing matching headstocks on
Uh-huh.
almost every guitar now,
Yep.
which used to be rare.
Uh-huh.
But so that's the big thing is just the 80s are coming back, but not just for older folks, but for younger guys too. It's been kind of
Mm-hmm.
surprising.
Yeah, it's
So,
all
And
going
we're
back around in a circle, isn't it?
yeah.
Yeah.
And another thing is I'm hoping at NAMM to have the basses, at least one bass, at least one to show because back in the day, Jim had Abe Laboriel and Steubenhaus and David Hungate and, you know,
Yeah.
he had all the bass cats too. It was crazy. You think about other builders and who had both like that, you
Yeah,
know?
not very many.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
So,
is there any I remember ages ago I could have been tripping like thinking about this, but did you mention something about a neck through that you guys had secretly been working
yeah.
on in the
Well, there was this set neck thing that Jim was messing around with, and we for a short time, for about 2 years, I had a young guy named Andy Hicks, who's now a master builder at Fender.
yeah.
He had worked at Fender and he was at Exotic, and I brought him over here to become Jim, and he was. I'm so glad I had him for those 2 years, and I was happy for him to get that gig and give him more flexibility because he also plays in a band. But I was sad for me. And I mean, I got some great guys now. Gil Vasquez that started Baker Guitars
Yeah.
and worked at the ESP Custom Shop. I get Ed Lang who worked at ESP Custom Shop and Ibanez Custom Shop. So it's great. So, but Andy was really wonderful, and um, so Jim was messing with this guitar, and I don't want to describe it too much, but it's a combination of some different stuff Jim's done over the years, but you look at it and it's screaming to be neck through. We already do have it. Maybe we'll get it going by NAMM. We have a 24 fret two humbucker thing that Jim
Yep.
called Brutal,
Oh, okay.
instead of brutal.
Yeah.
So
Uh-huh.
I'm thinking of spelling it BRU capital TALL. So people say Brutal,
Yeah.
But and then basses, and then we have the set neck ready to go for a while. And it's that one is we just got to figure out how to paint it, and we've been expanding, and I'm sort of out of room, and of course those, I mean, get into schmears on something that's like a set neck, Les Paul style, because people are gonna want it.
Yep.
We do schmears, they're gonna want to schmear on a Les Paul looking thing.
Uh-huh.
So there's a lot of stuff. There's room for expansion, which is exciting, but we're looking for a building to buy. The new owner is savvy, and he's like, I don't want to pay rent in a bigger building. I want to find a building where I can make it home for Tyler and for Wild West guitars, because they own Wild
Yeah.
West.
Yeah.
So, but yeah,
Awesome. So that's some new things that are in the tinkering works for later
Yeah.
later on down the track for you guys.
in the over here we call it in Southern California, it's the Skunk Works.
Yes, Skunk Works. Gotta
Yeah.
love it. Awesome, Rich. Well, I think we should maybe wrap it up, eh? What do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to get Louie to do some playing and sort of,
Great.
cut it all across. So I'll try and get him to do hello for you on the guitar for socials. Woo!
Nice.
which would be cool. And then
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
we'll push through the video through Dropbox to you, Rich, as well. So if you want to share it, you're more than welcome. It'd be awesome.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
But thank you guys so much. It's been an absolute
Oh, yeah.
pleasure having you
Oh, my
Yeah.
pleasure.
Yeah, it's fun to catch up with you, Rich, and I look forward to
Yeah.
actually seeing you there in person one of these days.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome. I think that'd be
Yeah.
a blast.
Oh, it will be. Yeah. Well, if we
Just
can get
great
into-
work, man, that the guys are doing there. It's just I can't say enough about it. Even this, this is unbelievable. This guitar that Reese has.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much more going into that, probably workman, as far as hours and all that.
Yeah.
But
Well, that's one thing one thing I didn't say in here, but you guys could plug it in is at the Celebration of Life, I played a couple of clips of Jim ripping a solo with, we had a band, which is just me and a friend on drums, and we were just writing some stuff. But people need to know Jim could play.
Yeah.
Like in another life, he could have been a player. That's where he got his ear for tone and stuff. It was like, you know, it was like he was a repair guy and a builder that really was a record producer and guitar player.
Yeah,
You know,
wow.
as if that makes sense.
I I wasn't that familiar with Tyler and all of that, but I have tried to see as much on YouTube as I can. Does he have some stuff on YouTube? There's an older guy that I've seen playing in the shop.
Mm-mm.
It wasn't him.
I don't think so, because Jim was so shy, he wouldn't let any of that out. Like, I was gonna release these clips, but when he was still with us, but I was so afraid he was gonna beat me up.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, maybe it was one of the other workers because it was in
Could
the
have been.
shop, and he was just playing one of your guitars.
If you see it, again, just shoot it to me in an email and let me check it
Okay.
out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was him. All this time I
Yeah.
thought it was Jim.
I'd be surprised because people they would be posting that every few weeks or something
Yeah, for
if
sure.
there was that out there. Yeah.
Okay.
Easy done.
I'll
Cool.
try to find
Well,
it
good
again.
seeing you.
Yeah,
Great.
same
Yeah.
here.
Love you like a
Awesome.
brother.